Hello, this is the Truth Seeker. I decided to try something a little different today, and that is I have not seen this video, but I'm going to do a response to it on the fly. Um, I've seen a few videos by this gentleman who calls himself Xoroaster, and he's a very educated gentleman. I happen to disagree with most of what he says, but I don't know. I always hold out that maybe we do agree on some things. He posted a video with the title Episode 5. I haven't seen the first 5 episodes, so I might have to do that. This is entitled Episode 5 Josephus on Jesus, Early Christianity 5.0. And so I already know what his content is primarily aimed at. So I know what to expect upon watching this. So let's just see what my response is to this right off the bat. So I'm just going to start the video and respond to it as I go along. Oh, I forgot this has an ad on it. Okay, skip ad. All right.
Hi YouTube. Today we're going to talk Josephus. Where we are in the video series is between the first two theologies, which are Jewish Christian theologies, very, very Jewish, and what later would be a radical revolutionary version of this theology. And in between, we have some secular mentions, and today we're going to talk about one of those, and that's Josephus. Many of you are aware of the Flavian testimonial in the book Antiquities of the Jews. That's not what we're talking about today. And I think you can make the case very easily that those mentions are interpolations. They're inauthentic. However, there is a mention in Wars of the Jews that I think pretty much everybody ignores. And today we're going to talk about that because that particular mention of Jesus sounds to me to be very authentic.
Okay, that's interesting. So he makes a mention of the interpolations of Josephus, which I have not, one way or another, I have not come to a decision on myself. But I tend to agree with the line of thought that that there was another version of that section that was more authentic, which in what is sort of worded to the effect of, that they said he was the Christ, which kind of puts Josephus in a more of a third party position. So I tend to agree with that line of thought, and I do think that Josephus does mention Jesus, and he does mention here that there's another section where he brings up Jesus, and so being a scholar, I think he realizes that can we totally dismiss Josephus, not ever bringing up the name of Jesus due to some interpolations? No, we cannot. And I don't want to get into the whole, argument about, whether those should be, accepted on face value, because that is a long, long study. Of course, everything's a long study, right? All right, so let's move on.
So here we go. Josephus, Wars of the Jews, Book 6, Chapter 5, Section 3. But what is still more terrible, there was one Jesus, the son of Ananias, a plebeian and a husbandman, who 4 years before the war began, and at a time when the city was in great peace and prosperity, came to that feast whereon it is our custom for everyone to make tabernacles to God in the temple, began on a sudden to cry aloud, a voice from the east, a voice from the west, a voice from the four winds, a voice against Jerusalem and the holy house, a voice against the bridegrooms and the brides, and a voice against the whole people. This was his cry as he went about by day and by night in all the lanes of the city. However, certain of the most eminent among the populace had great indignation at this dire cry of his, and took up the man, and gave him a great number of severe stripes. Yet did not he either say anything for himself, or anything peculiar to those that chastised him, but still went on with the same words which he cried before. Hereupon our rulers, supposing, as the case proved to be, that this was a sort of divine fury in the man, brought him to the Roman procurator, where he was whipped till his bones were laid bare. Yet he did not make any supplication for himself, nor shed any tears, but turning his voice to the most lamentable tone possible, at every stroke of the whip his answer was, Woe, woe to Jerusalem. And when Albinus, for he was then our procurator, asked him who he was, and whence he came, and why he uttered such words, he made no manner of reply to what he said, but still did not leave off his melancholy ditty till Albinus took him to be a madman, and dismissed him. Now during all the time that passed before the war began, the man did not go near any of the citizens, nor was seen by them while he said so, but he every day uttered these lamentable words, as if it were his premeditated vow, Woe, woe to Jerusalem. Nor did he give ill words to any of those who beat him every day, nor good words to those that gave him food, but this was his reply to all men, and indeed no other than a melancholy presage of what was to come. This cry of his was the loudest at the festivals, and he continued this ditty for 7 years and 5 months, without growing hoarse, or being tired therewith, until the very time that he saw his presage in earnest fulfilled in our siege, when it ceased. For as he was going round upon the wall, he cried out with the utmost force, Woe, woe to the city again, and to the people, and to the holy house. And just as he added at the last, Woe, woe to myself also, there came a stone out of one of the engines, and smote him, and killed him immediately. And as he was uttering the very same presages, he gave up the ghost. This passage from Josephus is absolutely 100% talking about Christianity in the time of Josephus. And
Okay. Why don't I just stop right there? Now, first I'm going to have to read that, so I will do that in the process of making this video and edit that in. But the issue that it seems to me is there's an assumption here right off the bat that this Jesus, which Josephus is talking about, is the same Jesus of early Christianity. And he looks like he's going to set forward an argument here, in saying that this is that Jesus. Now, we're going to listen to the reasons why he says that. So let's go ahead and listen.
The first thing we're going to start off with is the idea that Jesus was a husbandman. Josephus gets this idea from the concept of being a good shepherd. The Christians are obviously telling everybody that he was a good shepherd. The second part, Jesus predicted the temple destruction. Obviously, that's in all of the Gospels. The 3 woes, that's in Revelation. The bride and the bridegroom is also in Revelation, as well as other texts. He was sent from the Jews to the procurator. In this case, Albinus. Josephus doesn't quite understand what the Christians are saying. And in order to put it in the correct time, he's got it with Albinus. What they're actually saying is he was sent to Pilate, but according to him, according to Josephus, they're wrong because they're in the wrong time frame.
Okay, let me just stop right now, and I will address just a few of these here, just off the cuff. Now, this is a completely new argument to me. Of course, I haven't heard it. There's so many arguments out there, and we all have our specialties. But the first thing that just comes to my head off the bat is that these are parallels that are in general parallels to Judaism in general, and there were many typologies that even the basic prophets would consider as pertaining to themselves and to the whole nation of Israel as well. And so it's just sort of a matter of reason that Jesus also holds these things, such as being a husbandman, having these 3 woes, the typology of the bride and the bridegroom, you know, and so basically, what we have here is a rich tradition of imagery within the nation of Israel that is sort of owned by all, owned by all the prophets, owned by the nation, owned by, well, in this case, we're saying Jesus eventually, speaks forth these parallels. So I think it's, we can't just jump to the assumption right away that, oh my gosh, look at those parallels. They're, that right away that they're that must be true, So now, this is my suspicion. My suspicion is that I'm going to look this up, and I'm going to see that this is an established argument, that it's been around for a while, because that's how these things are. They're always like, people like putting them out there again. So, maybe this will just be an example as to how this progresses. And what I'm showing you right now is how I approach accusations in regard to Christianity. And maybe if you could see the process of how, I get into the research and what I call the truth seeking, maybe that would be good for others to see, so that they can learn how to approach these types of claims. All right, let's move on.
Albinus, Josephus doesn't quite understand what the Christians are saying, and in order to put it in the correct time, he's got it with Albinus.
Okay, he mentions about a mistake that Josephus makes. In other words, see, this is evidence that that Josephus did it, because he makes a mistake by putting this Jesus in the wrong time period, but this is the reason why he makes the mistake. In other words, he's confusing it with the different leaders or the roles of the leaders. And so, like I said, I'm coming at this cold turkey. I'm not, I'm not developing my arguments and like trying to put a video out there to, totally point out everything wrong with what this gentleman Zoroaster has to say on this particular topic. But this is just my initial assessment of what he's saying here. And that is that a lot of times somebody will make an accusation that it's not right. The time period is not right. Josephus he's reporting it incorrectly. In other words, okay. So we're not gonna take what he wrote correctly. In other words, we're not gonna believe that what Josephus wrote was actually correct. We're just going to doubt that what he wrote about that time period was incorrect. We're going to assume that Josephus got it wrong, because we're already kind of making an assumption that this must be a story account of Jesus of Nazareth. So you see how the assumption based upon an assumption. And so everything has to be confirmed point by point. Now, I don't have the time and energy right now to get into this, but I'm just addressing, the general thought processes of most biblical minimalists, and I'm coming in it from a biblical maximalist viewpoint. So you could see the difference here. The two different methodologies of thought. All right. Obviously, I'm just kind of skimming over this. I'm not hitting every point here, but let's move on.
What they're actually saying is he was sent to Pilate, but according to Josephus, they're wrong, because they're in the wrong time frame. He doesn't understand that Christianity is saying that this was quite some time ago. He understands that it is actually connected to the temple destruction. And of course, Jesus has nothing in his defense. He is sent back to the Jews and, of course, put to death. And then the final part of this, the stone rolled away. Now, the stone rolled away to me is probably the most fascinating part of this. I had detected about a year or so ago the idea that the stone rolled away could be very early, and it was detected by using Enoch's cosmology and the star mystery in Theophilus' Apology to Autolycus. What this is suggesting is that what Josephus suggests is that he was crushed by a stone. Apparently, the death of Jesus makes no sense to Josephus whatsoever, but the Christians keep saying that the stone rolled away, and either he wasn't there or he rose from the dead. So,
Okay, so this is an interesting little theory. And I gotta just say, this is everything's conjecture, right? It's all conjecture. We're all speculating about what we believe, right? So I think the difference between a biblical minimalist and a biblical maximalist is that a biblical maximalist will be honest about what they speculate about. A biblical minimalist will go with the assumption that what they're saying is true, most of the time. I'm being in general. I'm being generalistic here, okay? So there's no question whatsoever that the deductive reasoning that they have gone through, the logical sequence of figuring out what they have, been enlightened, that this must be the truth. So again, this is something that requires a little bit more scrutiny. You cannot just throw, a hodgepodge of claims out there. You really need to study these matters and come to the conclusion yourself. So yeah, I'll study this issue. It's interesting. He's talking about the phrase "the stone rolled away." Well, stone rolled away. That's interesting. I'll have to go back and look at that. I don't want to do a lot of editing here and cut this video, but the more videos I do, the less editing I want to do, and hence this video off the cuff. So basically, what I'm saying is this: is that what did the phraseology of Josephus actually say? Did he say the stone rolled away? I believe he said that it was like the stone fell. It fell on this guy named Jesus and killed him. And you begin to wonder, well, what the whole conjecture is that, oh well, this story just over time it just sort of developed into this kind of resurrection story, that the stone rolled away and that Jesus was resurrected, not that the stone fell on him and killed him. Well, that's interesting, but then you got to kind of have to think, well, then why does the Josephus account still exist if this is something that kind of developed? Well, maybe that's not good reasoning, but I suppose you could look at it that way, though, in that if something develops over time and you forget about what the original intent was, it's because you don't have access to the original source. And what he's saying is that Josephus was the original source, when in all likelihood, Josephus was a contemporary of the gospel writers. Well, I say all likelihood. I mean, current consensus dating, dates all of these gospel accounts, possibly, at the same time as Josephus, if not after. And I do like to point out that the manuscript of Josephus is not as early dated as the manuscripts of the Gospels. So therefore, there's a case to be made that the Gospels were written prior to Josephus. Again, speculation. But as long as we're being truthful here, we can show the speculation on both sides. And we can't say that it is one way or the other. Okay? So basically, again, what I'm saying is this. if you're going to say that Josephus is the source of the resurrection story, now you're going to have to get into a whole bunch of issues. Now you probably got into a lot of other stuff here. I'm only coming in at episode 5. You know, who do I think I am? Anyway, let's finish this off here.
What Josephus says is that he must have been crushed by a stone, and that's how it ends up in Josephus. So it's a fascinating passage, and I would love for any comments on this. I'd love to hear any comments on this. If you've got anything, let me know. I think this passage absolutely nails what Christianity was, in a sense, how it could be understood. The first person to mention it in a secular sense is probably Josephus, and he doesn't get it. Secular sense is probably Josephus, and he doesn't get it. He does not understand what they're saying, and what they are saying makes no sense to him whatsoever. So I guess that's all I got for you today. Got anything, let me know. Thanks a lot, folks. Bye.
Okay, so he has a little chart there at the end. I'll have to study it, but he's saying that Josephus doesn't understand what the gospel writer, is that what he's saying? That Josephus doesn't understand what the gospel writers are saying? I don't think I follow that. Anyway, yeah. So it's interesting parallel, and maybe I'll have to look at some of his other episodes. Anyway, God bless everyone, and keep seeking truth. Maybe I'll get into this a little more. Maybe I won't, if I feel it deems my time. But as you all know, I've been going through quite a bit of ordeal lately. My mom just passing, dealing with the property, the assets, division of all that stuff, and taking care of business, taking care of jobs. And I thank Xoroaster for continuing to contribute to the community of YouTube for those people that really think and are not just putting out a bunch of blather. All right. God bless everyone. Look forward to my next